The chill of fall is unlike any other. There's a sharp bite to the air, a crispness that almost tastes metallic. When I planned a solo camping trip in mid-October, I imagined an escape from city noise, one last adventure before the icy grip of winter. I didn't imagine whatever this is. I set up camp near Willow's Crest, a quiet, isolated lake I found on a whim last summer. It's a place few people visit, at least in the colder months. A rugged trail leads into the forest, winding through the trees that were now ablaze with fiery reds and deep yellows. The silence was thick. I'd hoped for the sounds of birds or the distant rustling of animals, but it felt like the entire forest was holding its breath. As the evening came, I made a fire. Shadows stretched across the campsite, dark and menacing. I heard the first noise just after sundown, a scraping sound, like something sharp dragging along the bark of a tree. I froze, straining to listen. It stopped as quickly as it began. I shrugged it off as a tree branch falling. I should have left then. I was awakened that night by the crunch of leaves far too close to my tent. Probably a deer, I told myself, but the footsteps were slow, deliberate, circling my tent. Holding my breath, I reached for my flashlight, shining it toward the sound. A pair of glowing eyes reflected back from the trees, human height, unblinking, staring right at me. I held my breath, waiting for it to move, to run away. It didn't. My skin prickled as I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. And then the eyes vanished into the shadows, leaving a void that felt colder than the air. Morning came, and I convinced myself it had been a trick of the light. Maybe my nerves were just getting to me. But that day, the feeling that I was being watched wouldn't leave. Every time I turned, I thought I saw a shadow darting out of sight. It wasn't until nightfall that I truly began to panic. As I was cooking dinner, I heard the scraping again. This time, it was closer. Much closer. I stood up, shining my flashlight toward the trees, and there it was. The same pair of glowing eyes, but this time they were much nearer. I could see the shape now. A figure shrouded in shadow, with arms far too long, fingers tipped with claw-like nails. "Go away!" I shouted, but it stayed still, just watching, unblinking. The fire crackled beside me, and I gripped the nearest branch like a weapon. I wasn't about to let this thing chase me out of here. But that's when it started to move. Slowly, it stepped into the light of the fire, and I saw it clearly. Its skin was sallow and stretched thin, like it was barely clinging to its bones. Its mouth was a lipless slit, pulled back in a grin that exposed rows of jagged yellow teeth. And its eyes, they weren't just glowing from the light. They seemed to be made of light, two small orbs burning in its face. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the campfire. It reached one long arm toward me, its nails scraping together in a metallic sound that sent chills through me. "Leave," it rasped in a voice that sounded like dry leaves crunching. I didn't need to be told twice. I grabbed my backpack, barely managing to take my tent down, and ran. But no matter how fast I ran, I heard it behind me, footsteps light and quick, matching my pace. It was like it was toying with me, letting me think I could escape before drawing closer again. I reached my car, fumbled with the keys, and looked back. It was standing at the edge of the trees, just outside the clearing, watching, waiting. As I started the engine, its mouth stretched into an even wider grin, and for the first time, I heard it laugh. A low, hollow sound that filled my car as I sped away, only to find the chilling realization that the sound of its laughter echoed within my own mind all the way home.